Hi, I'm Kristen, and today I'll be talking about seasonal changes in UFO and UAP sightings. So over the past few years, I have noticed that once the cold weather arrives, that the amount of orbs that I'm seeing in the sky at night decreases dramatically. So typically around, I would say, late September into mid-November, in that range, when it starts to really get chilly at night, and you might even think about putting on a winter coat to go out and look at the stars. It's around that time that I start to see either practically nothing or completely nothing. So during the warm summer months going into the beginning of fall, I will see, let's say, between 3 to 5 orbs on like a slow night. And if it's a really busy night, I could count upwards of 30, 40, 50 orbs that are going over my house. And I could go and check like the Stellarium app and see like, okay, no, those are not satellites from like SpaceX or anything like that. There's no reasonable explanation for why there's just so many things in the sky above my property. But again, when it gets cold, it stops or it completely goes away. And so I've noticed this trend among other experiencers as well, that as soon as it becomes like cold fall into winter, people are saying like, I'm not seeing anything outside anymore, like I never do. And I've noticed that the contact that does happen from non-human intelligence, it kind of shifts to being within the home and kind of more psychic. So even a lot of experiencers that primarily will have physical contact with these types of sightings, when it gets cold, their contact goes within the mind. And so people will be more likely to have astral projections or out of body encounters, or they will have just more kind of lucid dreams and contact dreams where they are clearly being given information they shouldn't otherwise have. Um, and again, that comes like full force really in the cold months. And so I've been thinking a little bit about like why that really happens. And there's a couple kind of things that stuck out in my mind. It could just be logistics of where people are outside the most often. So uh, if you aren't somebody that believes that orbs are kind of gravitating specifically to one person at one time just because they have a really direct connection to that person, you think that like maybe these sightings are just seen in certain areas and you just happen to be the person that's seeing them. There could be reason to believe that a lot of these lights in the sky, UAPs, are going to the southern hemisphere when it's cold in the northern hemisphere, or vice versa. And so if somebody is in, let's say, Australia or New Zealand during the months that is typically cold in North America and in Europe, then you might be seeing a lot more out in the sky. Um, and I don't know if that's exactly true. Um, it could be. I'm trying to think of some people that I know that are from that region. And honestly, yeah, it's like I can't say that I've heard of them talking about seeing like a lot of orbs in the sky specifically because it's their summer. But if you're from that region, if you're from Australia, New Zealand, any part of like Southeast Asia, feel free to chime in and tell me. It's like, no, when it is like that period between especially like October to March, if you are seeing a lot of activity in the sky, let me know. Um, the other reason that I was thinking that they might kind of disappear for a while is because they are concerned about kind of like our health, our well-being. And so the type of person that anytime that I'm spending extended periods of time outside in the cold, I'm going to get sick. So just even over this past winter, I did end up getting like really sick a few times. One of those times I came down with the flu, which led to pneumonia. And so knowing that would be exacerbated or be happening even more frequently if I was going out at night all the time to kind of see who was coming, they might be just logically thinking like, well, I'm not going to disturb this experiencer or this contactee by having them go outside and keep looking for us and looking for us if it's going to result in kind of harmed health. And so I think it's for that reason that, again, a lot of the contact becomes more mental and happening like when you're laying in bed or perhaps when you're late at night walking around your house. Um, and so I've also noticed that the activity within my home over the winter, even outside of like kind of mental psychic gifts, the activity in my home increases when it's cold. So I would just notice like a lot of shadows. So while typically I'll see like little bits and flitting pieces throughout the night, or as I'm getting ready to go to sleep, just any month, any day of the year, I notice that while it is wintertime, I will see kind of more formed figures, and even my kids throughout the winter, like they'll say like, I'm scared to go to sleep because I see a person over in that corner, or I saw somebody walk by a doorway. And while we do see shadows throughout the rest of the year, it seems like they seem like these types of NHI, non-human intelligence, they seem more formed or more present when it's wintertime. So maybe it's just a signifier of letting people know that we're still around, we haven't gone, we're just not going to be kind of trying to coerce you to go outside and to go look for orbs that might be outside or any other types of craft. And I was kind of thinking about this whole topic of contact going dead and then coming back, because my contact has returned because we're going into the spring. So even though it's not technically spring yet here in North America, I was outside in the past week and I noticed like, hey, like there's an orb going overhead. So I frequently, like about 2 or 3 times a week, would just go outside and stand outside for 3 to 5 minutes just to see if I could see anything. On this particular night, I saw, as soon as I stepped outside, there was an orb flaring up like right directly above me, and then so it kind of kept moving on into the distance. It was going like northwest, and it was kind of like moving a little bit like a fly, and then it would stop, and then it would move a little bit like a fly, and then it would stop. And as I typically do, I checked my kind of star map and satellite map, and there was nothing in the sky at that time. And so I kept watching, and as I watched that kind of like go off into the distance, I saw like another orb. It just appeared out of nowhere, and it moved, and then just dimmed out to nothing. And so I saw that, I believe, like 3 or 4 times, and some were blue, and then like one was white. And then I saw from the back of my property, there was like a flashbulb phenomenon. So just like a pure white light, and it like kind of just like blinked super, super bright, like 2 or 3 times. And then again, a couple of these orbs went by, and then another flashbulb phenomena, except it was like a lot closer to me, like almost right over my head almost. And so that was kind of all that I saw that night. But I noticed that before I went back inside, that everything got just like really quiet. And so because it is winter, there's like a lot of snow on the ground. And so I would hear like a lot of the sounds of like drips and melting snow and just like running water from everything kind of melting. And you'd hear typically like the branches moving in the wind and kind of clacking against each other. And I live at, I was going to say like in a busy type of area, but it's, the area where I live is rural, but like far away in the distance, like the sound carries of cars that are in like the next like major road. And so typically, even from miles away, I could hear the sound of traffic carrying. But this particular night, after I'd seen these flashbulbs and these orbs and all this kind of like weird stuff in the sky, everything just like kind of got like really quiet, and then it was dead silent. And I remember standing on my porch and like kind of like looking around, like, is something going to come out of somewhere? Like, and it kind of like had like this feeling of like holding my breath, waiting for something to happen. And then nothing really did. I just stood out there for another few minutes while it was, again, still the whole time dead silent. And then I went back indoors. And I want to touch on this point because up until this point of having this happen and hearing the silence, I hadn't realized that this is kind of a major contactee or contact event type of signifier. So I was just watching one of Jeff Selver's videos a few days ago, and he talked about kind of having your memory removed and kind of stepping outside of time. And a lot of our contact events, they happen pretty much in a place of timelessness, like you're experiencing these interactions with non-human intelligence, but it's not happening like in time as we know it. So kind of like the memory of what occurred is stored in like our oversoul, or it's just stored not in our physical brain. And so he said that before a lot of those contact events occur, it's like everything goes silent, like eerily silent, like deadly silent. And so this first night that I had contact back, or at least the sightings back, it was the same exact night that I heard this dead silence. So at this point, I'm thinking that like maybe something possibly occurred, and I'm just not really aware of it, and that will be maybe a memory that comes back at another time. But I just thought it was so funny that that night that I finally saw something, and I was like, they're back, they're coming to kind of show that they're around again, like physically. That it was the same night that something possibly occurred. So if you are an experiencer or contactee and you've noticed also that like your contact fluctuates with like how cold it is or what the weather is like, or just what season it is in general, please let me know. I'm trying to see if there's like kind of a pattern that is here, because I've definitely noticed this pattern in my own life. So thank you so much for listening today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.